Growing up, I always wanted exotic pets. I remember preparing a PowerPoint presentation on why I, at 9 years old, should own a marmoset monkey. Thank God my parents didn't actually get me one because Jesus Christ, that would have been bad. Freshman year of high school, I really wanted a ferret. I would watch the YouTuber Mzotic, who had a ton of exotic pets. One of which was a leech that she fed with her own blood. Thankfully, I didn't try to get one of those because, ouch. But occasionally, she would showcase her ferrets, and I was in love. I mean, they're these playful little noodles, but they're very stinky, and I thought I could handle it until I met my friend's ferrets. They had their own room that my friend would clean regularly, but the smell was so bad, I felt like I could see a stink cloud as soon as the door opened. But props to any ferret owners out there, y'all are fighting the good fight. Anyway, shortly after getting my first job, I got an axolotl that I named Genos, but I mostly called him Dude Man because nobody in my house watched One Punch Man and I didn't feel like explaining that name all the time. He was a black axolotl that glowed in the dark. I was supposed to get a second one, a yellow one named Saitama, but I couldn't trust that they would both be the same gender. In case you don't know, you can't keep axolotls of the opposite gender in the same tank because they'll, do the devil's tango into the grave, so to speak. I refer to Genos as a he, but he very well could have been a she. When I ordered him, I specifically asked for a male, but like birds, you can't really tell until you test their DNA or something. Genos was chill, but he didn't do much other than sit there though, and I don't see myself ever getting another aquatic animal again. It's way too much work. I mean, you literally have to clean the quote-unquote air they breathe. But props to any aquatic animal owners out there. Y'all are also fighting the good fight. Anyway, fast forward to September of 2024, my girlfriend and I were offered free baby rats. One of her family members got a couple of female rats and one came pregnant. And like axolotls, you can't keep the same gender in a cage together because then you'll have a whole lot of babies. But unlike axolotls, it's easy to tell their gender apart. Very easy. Originally, I said no. I didn't have any negative opinions on rats, but I knew they only live like 2 to 3 years max, and I didn't want to set myself up for that kind of heartbreak. But when my girlfriend came to me with goddamn puppy dog eyes, I couldn't say no. Some of you know the struggle. And on October 9th, their gotcha day, we collected them. We wanted girls because we heard boys tend to mark their territory on stuff, and honestly, I didn't feel like having rat pee coat my belongings. But side note, we really don't have that problem. They get free time basically every day and they rarely pee on anything. Except for the bag I keep my embroidery floss in. Not cool, guys, not cool. We settled for boys because the girls were already claimed, which was a bummer, but I'm happy to have my little dudes. Though now I have to own the title of boy mom and I don't know how I feel about that. Well, anyway, we get to the rat dealer's house and he just dumps a bunch of rats on his dining room table and we just had to pick through the ones we wanted. It felt like we were at the bins, you know? Those thrift stores where you have to dig through those giant bins and pick out your clothes? Yeah, that. Although they already had names, we decided to change them before we even picked them out. We were going to get 2 rats and rename them Scratch and Sniff. Now the only thing left to do was to decide who looked like a Scratch and who looked like a Sniff. This dude stood out to us first for his boldness. While the other rats were understandably a little bit cautious to come up to us, Spot, named for his spot, was already grabbing at our fingers with his tiny rat hands. And he was the first to teach me just how sharp rat claws are because he scratched my finger. Perfect. With our Scratch casted, we started looking for our Sniff. We picked out this guy who was named Scar for his scar of fur. He was by far the smallest of the boys out there, and in a sea of mostly white rats, his grayness stood out to us. Sniff, you guessed it, sniffed us a whole lot. Thank you very much. Now, with 2 rats in my hotbar, I was ready to go back home, until I see this dude peeking out from under a box. He's definitely a bit bigger than the other rats, which is why the rat dealer named him Piggy. Piggy was a big scaredy cat, or should I say scaredy rat? Sorry. But nah, he was real nervous. But you know, the urge to grab a rat came over me, and before I knew it, we had this photo. Yeah, that's my hair. Never thought I'd have a rat in my hair, but hey, there's a first for everything. My girlfriend immediately fell in love with him, and I too was quickly forced to fall in love with him. We had another puppy dog eyes situation. But we didn't know what to name him. I mean, we already had Scratch and Sniff. We didn't want him to be a third wheel with his own brothers. Scratch, Sniff, and Piggy? No. That was until I had a stroke of genius. This divine wisdom came over me and I suggested giving him a name that started with N. That way, their names all fit together. He would be the in Scratch Sniff. Nambo it is. However, his government name is Nambo Bombo, so write that down. Please, Mr. Bombo, a moment of your time. I mean, for rats, the more the merrier. Rats, like many rodents, not all of them, oh my god, rats are very social creatures and enjoy each other's company. Well, it's more like a requirement. Rats need to have each other's company. Quick tangent, Did you know that rats have empathy? I watched a study on PBS where they tested rat empathy by having a free rat and a rat in a constricting cage in the same area. The free rat would try to free the caged rat almost every time. And then, yeah, it gets sweeter, they added a similar cage next to the caged rat with chocolate chips inside. Instead of keeping the caged rat stuck while it ate all of the chocolate chips like many of us probably would, the rat would still free the caged rat and they would share the chocolate chips. Isn't that so adorable? God, I love rats. And I think rats love each other just as much as I love them. Well, anyway, with now 3 rats in our hot bars, we brought them home to an already set up cage. Before adopting them, we did a ton of research into everything when it comes to rat care, but of course, we are not experts. If you keep rats and you notice anything I say in this video is completely wrong, please leave a comment and I'll fix it. I really don't want to spread any misinformation with this video. Also, if you're thinking about getting rats, please do your own research too. Anyway, disclaimers aside, let's get back into the video. Starting with the cage. Honestly, the bigger the better. I better not see anyone buying cages like this for rats. Nobody. I'm not even sure it's suitable for hamsters, let alone rats. We purchased this exact cage off of Amazon and it's perfect. It's for ferrets, but what works for them works for rats. Generally. Maybe. I don't know. Notice how there's no bars on the floors? Some cages have flooring like this. Yeah, no. You do not want this. This is really bad. Walking on bars like this for a long period of time can lead to stuff like bumblefoot, which is not the name of a jolly old hobbit, but a scary bacterial infection. It's bad, okay? Peep the litter box in the corner. It's ceramic so they can't chew on it. We use a paper pellet type litter because it's better for their little lungs. Those rocks on top of the bars are their pee rocks. I guess rats like to pee on flat rocks, so it helps to keep the piss where the piss should go. Also, don't come for me for the bars on the litter box. We tried to go without them, but they just fling litter and poop everywhere when they use the litter box. Also, litter would get stuck to them. Very stinky. That's no good. It's bad enough they fling bedding everywhere. Poop is too far. The bedding though. Yeah, the bedding. We use this stuff. Some stores sell scented bedding. Please, if you have rats or any type of rodent, never use scented bedding. Rats are very prone to respiratory issues, so it's also important to keep stuff like candles or incense away from them. Don't give them anything scented. When we wash their little hammocks, we never use fabric softener, only detergent, and if it's really stinky, a tiny bit of bleach to get rid of the smell. Well, anyway, back to the bedding. As you can see, the floor is covered with it. Rats typically like to burrow, so we always make sure they have enough bedding to do that. But honestly, they're too lazy. After wreaking havoc all night, they usually just chill in the taco or the hammock, or that week's cardboard box. We changed out so they don't get all smelly. We used to have a clear plastic wall surrounding the bottom layer to keep the bedding inside, but then we could never reach them. It was a hassle. I won't bore you with it. Toys. Ideally, you want to have a lot of enrichment toys in a rat cage. Rats are very smart creatures, so keeping their minds sharp is a must. You can train a rat to do so many things. Have you ever watched rat basketball? You should. Rats also like to drive cars. This is not exactly relevant, I just wanted to share. But anyway, they have a couple of these spinny things. I'm not exactly sure what to call them. You plop some food in there and they spin it. Pretty simple. We have this thing that we use when they're outside of their cage. If we keep it inside their cage, I fear they would piss all over it. So yeah, our rats don't really care for toys all that much. Sometimes, very rarely, they'll be interested in the cat toy we bought them, but usually it's to sniff it for a sec and go back to doing something else. Rats are kind of like cats. They are only interested in the things you don't want them to touch, and only play with trash. I posted a community post like a week ago where I asked for some questions to answer in this video, and someone wanted to know what their favorite toy was. I hope it pleases you to know that their favorite toy is a crumpled up piece of paper. They'll literally fight for it. Sometimes we'll stick some food inside and they'll really lose their minds. Which brings me to my next topic, food. I think for most pets, understanding proper diet is the hardest part for pet owners. I don't know if you can tell, but the council is overweight. Like really overweight. Sniff, our smallest rat, is even overweight. It's a problem that we are actively dealing with. Upon adopting our rats, we were instructed to just buy oxbow rat food, which is a really good rat food, and just leave it in the cage at all times because rats should self-regulate how much they eat. Not these assholes. Namba would literally be at the ceramic plate I painted that we would keep their food on and just eat and eat and eat. It also didn't help that we would give them lots of nuts, which have a lot of protein and would make them fat. So the blame isn't all on Namba. It was hard to remember at first just how tiny these guys are. One walnut might just be a bite for us, but it's an entire 4-course meal for them. I used to give them each a cherry tomato and a blueberry every day as a snack. No wonder they're so fat. My girlfriend did a ton of research about proper rat diet and made this good blend of oxbow kibble, seaweed, mealworms, puffed rice, etc. We only feed them twice a day now, and we don't just leave it on a plate like we used to. We actually put the food in enrichment toys and sprinkle it in their bedding so they have to dig for it. I say we, but my girlfriend is responsible for like 90% of the rat care research. I legit feel like a 1950s husband or a modern husband if you fall under a specific political party. I'm kidding. There are married single moms on both sides of the political spectrum. Anyway, because I genuinely don't know what's going on with them. I just help when I'm needed. But don't worry, I still clean their cage as much as her. Which brings me to cage cleaning. In a perfect world, you want to tidy their cage, like wipe up things every other day if you can, and then completely clean it. I'm talking removing everything and washing it with Dawn dish soap every week. I say ideally, but you probably won't because, you know, life happens. But usually when we start smelling it, it's time for a clean. While we clean it, we usually let them roam our office room after ratifying it. And then we mop up after, because you know, they're stinky. It's good to let rats free every day though. By that I mean, just out of their cage. We call it free roaming time, and it's perfect if you want your rats to become more comfortable with you. If you have rats, I highly recommend allowing your rats out of their cages if you don't already do that. You could even post them up in the bathroom if need be. It's easier to clean and easier to keep an eye on them if you know what I mean. Okay, I think that's all for the rat care aspect of this video. This next part is a little bit sad, but I feel like I should spread the word so this stuff doesn't happen again. Pet rats are domesticated creatures and cannot survive in the wild on their own. Got it? Okay, the reason I'm telling you this is because back around June, we found out that a rat dealer, you know, the guy who owns the mother of the council, released his rats into the wild because he was moving and didn't have anywhere to put them. He told us it was fine because rats were never domesticated. My girlfriend and I were really upset when we found that out because rats are domesticated creatures, since the 15th century, in fact. I mean, think about it. If you take a creature that is only ever eaten off a plate and throw it into the wild, it's not going to do very well. And my girlfriend, who has known this guy basically all her life, remember, family member, tells me he's done this kind of thing before. He used to have ferrets and just dump them too. Surrendering animals is a thing. You can do that. It's shitty, but it's better than leaving them to die. And after that, I started to remember blatantly wrong things he would teach us about rat care that we just overlooked. I remember while we were picking them out, we asked him how he cleans his cage, and he tells us he uses bleach and vacuums with them still inside the cage. At the time, my girlfriend and I gave each other that look. You know, the one that you usually shoot a friend or a partner after someone says something fucking insane? That one. But what are we gonna say? At the time, we weren't even rat owners yet, so we didn't want to assume we knew more than him. Bro, I can still remember the look of horror on my girlfriend's face as we watched this man chase his rat around the cage, like trying to grab her, and she fucking turns around and bites him, like drawing blood and everything. Rats never bite. Ever. Unless they feel threatened or something. I mean, the council has never bitten me. Well, I mean they have, but like a miss when I give them treats or something, because rats actually have terrible vision. And actually, let me get back to the point. This dude really didn't have any business owning rats, and especially had no business giving advice on rat care. And I think we need to remember that, not just for rats, but any pet. Even parenting. You can include parenting on this too. Anyone can go out and buy a pet, just like how basically anyone can make a kid. It's a lot easier than I feel like it should be. But that's beside the point. When buying a pet or a kid, that's right, I'm still using this example, do your own research and pay attention to who you are paying attention to. If someone's only credential is owning a rat, yeah, I gave up on the example, question it a bit, you know? It helped us to look for a more widely agreed on opinion, but even that has its flaws. I mean, look at most dog foods. They're basically just filler and have little to no nutritional value. And don't even get me started on some of the flea and tick medications out there. Some of them are actual poison and have been linked to many dog and cat deaths. Whew. Anyway, soapbox aside, let's get back to the council. My voice just cracked, sorry. When we brought them home, our only stress was about how our dogs would react to them. I have 2 dogs, an old blind dog that's not afraid to scrap, and a young, not blind dog that's afraid of everything. But predator and prey living in the same household can be a bit concerning, if you know what I mean. But thankfully, I think I lucked out in that aspect. Our young dog is so scared he refuses to even look at the cage. For science, I held his paw up to the cage and he was terrified. Don't worry, he got a treat for being such a good lab dog. But that's when I learned I should have been worried for the opposite situation. Do you see how ready this dude was? He was posted up immediately. One time our blind dog's tail got too close to the cage and Scratch had a fistful of fur and was trying to pull her tail into the cage. Thankfully, he only made contact with the fur and not the skin. I don't even think she knew what was happening. I'm not even sure she knows we have rats. This kind of situation is kind of expected though. I read that rats are very territorial creatures, but I didn't think it was to this degree. I mean, he was ready to fight a creature like more than 10 times his size. And if he wasn't so fat, could have been eaten in one bite. But I mean, our rat dealer told us one time that his dog, who is a sweetheart, licked his rat's cage and they bit her goddamn tongue and she was bleeding. It was scary from what I heard, but she's fine though. Now I'm more worried about the council getting out of their cage and jumping the dogs. I'm not sure this dude could hold his ground. I mean, look at that haircut. And don't get me wrong, they can't escape the cage if the doors are closed, but 3 times now, in a year, so it's not that insane, they've escaped. Well, Scratch has. The other 2 are good in that aspect. The first 2 instances happened right after we got them. Once when I was walking into my mom's bathroom, a tiny white body running under her bed caught my eye. And another when I was walking into the rat room, I saw Scratch run out and dart under my bed. Both times I was able to lure him out with food. Remember, fat? I'm not trying to imply that fat people are obsessed with food. Just fat rats, okay? Sorry. The last time was kind of funny. It was very recent and don't worry, everything was fine. Basically, my girlfriend and I were sitting on the couch watching a documentary and she noticed the dogs were looking under the couch. Well, one of them. The other one's blind, remember? And she heard this tiny scratching sound. Immediately she was like, oh shit, and ran to the rat room and noticed the cage door was accidentally left open after they were fed. I quickly herd the dogs into the other room because, you know, I didn't want them to get jumped, and on her way back to the living room, she saw a tiny rat head poking out from under the couch. While she was luring Scratch out from under the couch, I was trying to locate the other rats. Sniff, like a good boy, was just chilling in the goddamn taco. But Nambo was nowhere to be seen. But then, I looked eye level, and he was just sitting on top of the cage, and the door was open for like half an hour. Bro could have gone anywhere in the world and decided to go on top of his house. I mean, he does like to get the high ground for some reason. He's always trying to climb his cage in free roaming time. He's always on the taco, which is one of the highest points of the cage, and whenever we hold him, he's always trying to climb on our shoulders. It's like he's planning something, but I don't know what. But we've enacted a more structured protocol, especially before we leave the house. You know, to check that the cage is closed and to close the door of the rat room after we grab our keys or something, because God forbid they escape and we're not home. I referenced it for a sec earlier in the video, but I posted a community post asking for questions about the council and you guys gave me some. So, if I didn't already answer it in the video, I'll answer it here. What's their names? I realize I never gave you guys a full breakdown of their personalities attached to those names, so I'm going to do that now. So, starting with Sniff, he is our smallest, albeit still fat, rat we have. He is by far the smartest and is usually the first to figure out new enrichment toys. Sniff loves to wrestle his brothers, and usually if there's a rat fight, he is part of it. I don't think I've ever seen Scratch and Nambo fight, which is weird because there's a rat fight at least once every other day. I like how they look like puppets, it's very cute. When we want to hold a rat, it's usually Sniff because the others don't like to be held very often, but Sniff literally does not care. Like, look at that! We like to take him on trips to the fridge, and he likes it because he usually gets a prize for his patience. Sniff spends most of his day asleep, but I know he likes to party at night because I can hear all 3 of them going crazy. Next, Nambo. He is our fattest and dumbest rat. I'm sorry, but it's true. If I'm giving them a treat and one of them mistakes my finger for a cucumber, it's usually Nambo. But he loves to cuddle with his brothers. But sometimes, his brothers don't want to cuddle with him. Especially if they are lying in the taco like this. He wants to lay on top of them. But he forgets how tubby he is and just squishes them. And he is definitely our brattiest rat too. When free roaming time is over, he used to never want to go back in his cage. He would hide under my bookshelves, and if I tried to grab him, he'd scream bloody murder. I literally had to push him out with a book. I'm sorry, but I had other stuff to do. But he has gotten better recently, and he doesn't mind being touched. Well, none of them mind being touched. He just doesn't like to be held, which is fair, and I respect his wishes. Anyway, Scratch. Scratch is our adventurous and curious rat. He always wants to know what's going on and doesn't take no for an answer. 4 months, he's been trying to get on top of my desk because he knows it's the only place I don't want him to go in this room. This cart thing used to be next to my desk, and he would climb it over and over and over again trying to get up here. But, you know, he's a rat, so he's a bit dumb, and whenever he would succeed climbing up here, he would just freeze, giving me enough time to gently pick him up and place him back on the floor. He is also our most stressful rat to have because of how many health scares he's given us. He falls a lot. One time when we first got them, I was cleaning their cage and everything was removed. It was just an empty cage. They were just free roaming and I turned my back for literally 1 second and this dude climbed the inside to the very top and just fell. I also have this glorious video. And this one. But don't worry, I don't think he's falling because of his balance or anything serious. It's just because he tries to make jumps he probably shouldn't. Also, rats can fall from about 50 feet without injury. So let's test it. I'm kidding. My girlfriend did not like that joke when I texted it to her while she was at work. But it's not just falling. One time, months after we got them, Scratch was covered in these tiny scabs and was scratching a lot. We didn't know what it was, and when we Googled it, we learned it was probably mites. But like, how did they get to him? The council hadn't seen another rat for months, and it wasn't affecting the other rats. We were told it was most likely from their food, so we tossed it. The vet gave us this pink antibiotic liquid that we had to shove in his mouth every day for 2 weeks. Have you ever tried to wrestle a tiny syringe of liquid into a rat's mouth? Not pretty. But he's so smart, by the end of the 2 weeks, he would just stand there and ingest it through the bars. We didn't even have to hold him. Of course he got a treat for that. Also, I have 2 side notes. I don't know where to fit this in the video, so I'm just gonna say it here. First, we've taken these dudes to the vet twice in the year since we've adopted them, which is more than I've visited the doctor since I turned 18, and I'm almost 22 now. Anyway, the first time was for Scratch's mites, and the second was because we thought they were suffering from some sort of respiratory illness. I said it earlier, but rats are very prone to respiratory issues, so we thought it was very important to get that checked. Don't worry, the only thing we learned was that we are helicopter moms apparently, and the council was completely fine. But $144 later, we also learned that they are fat. So that was fun. But we did get these brochures that tell us what to look for if they actually are sick. Also, we bought an air purifier that we keep in the room. I don't know, I feel like it couldn't hurt. And second, rats eat their own poop, and it's good apparently. Can't say I've tried, but biologically rats need to eat their poop to digest nutrients properly, I guess. I don't know. But you could probably guess that we were worried at first. It's not a good sign for dogs to eat poop, but they're not dogs. And it is natural. The rat poop, not the dog poop thing. I don't know how I feel about that though. I just needed to tell someone. Well, that was a long response to a 3-worded question. Anyway, someone asked what their favorite foods are. They'll basically eat anything. Scratch loves mealworms, but the other 2 hate them. Sniff loves pumpkin seeds and Nobble loves dried peas. What was the biggest sacrifice you offered them? That's a close one. I'd say my kidney. The council told me they needed it and I assumed it was for like medical reasons. But my dumbass doctor wouldn't operate. He told me he was a dentiste, which I don't know what the fuck that means. Also, he called the cops on me because apparently I'm not allowed within a mile of his house. I swear to God, the American healthcare system sucks. But when I finally did get that sucker out, the council didn't even want it anymore. Something about a bean? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, my kidney. Scubba-Dooey, great name and profile picture, demanded that I give them some cheese, so here you guys go.
Thank you, Mother.
I thought to finish this video, I'd strike down a common misconception I've heard about rats. By that I mean what my mother has said to me when we first got them. And that is that they are quote-unquote dirty. That may be true for a New York sewer rat, but even those little dudes groom themselves quite regularly. Rats like to bathe themselves and are relatively clean animals. Furthermore, that's right, I'm busting out the essay vocabulary. Pet rats are extremely unlikely to carry diseases. I feel like half the population contributes the bubonic plague to rats, and the other half understand that it was actually caused by the fleas that would hitch a ride on the rats, among other animals. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was literally everything I had to say about the council. I genuinely have nothing else to say. So, bye. Hey guys, it's been a while since I've actually sat down and said something. I didn't add a little off-the-cuff voice over at the end of my last video because I was trying to get it up quicker and I didn't want to sit back down in my mom's closet because I recorded in my mom's closet. Anyway, that's beside the point. Oh, I was going to make a community post thanking you guys for 3,000 subscribers, but I was worried if I did it right when I hit 3,000, someone would unsubscribe and then I'd look like a fucking idiot. And then I waited a little bit until I got a little bit more so that if some little assholes unsubscribed, it wouldn't matter. I mean, you matter. So yeah, I waited and then I forgot to make a post. And by then it had been a couple of days and I felt kind of awkward to say something now. I don't know. So I'm saying it here. If you made it this far into the video, why? But yeah, thank you for 3,000 subscribers. Your little paper is in my jar. If you don't know, I make a little piece of paper for every subscriber and I crumple it and I put it in a jar. But anyway, I'll let you guys go. I'm talking too long. Bye.